What's up, guys? Michael James with Beyond the Forbidden. Do you want to receive extra content that's not viewed anywhere else? Support Beyond the Forbidden on Patreon to receive plus content that is only exclusive to members of Beyond the Forbidden. Content like the full 2-hour podcast, bonus shows, full-length video interviews, behind-the-scenes footage with guests, and much more. So what do you have to lose? Go to patreon.com/Beyond the Forbidden. That's patreon.com/Beyond the Forbidden and become a member of Beyond the Forbidden for just $5 a month. And also check the description for the links.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location, somewhere in the northern hemisphere, waiting out the alien apocalypse. He is armed with a machete and a microphone. Join Michael James as he seeks answers to the paranormal, conspiracies, ancient mysteries, and the occult. Are you ready to trip the fuck out? This is Beyond the Forbidden.
All right, welcome to Beyond the Forbidden. Today on the show, I got Howdie, Mickoski, and this is a treat, an honor, a privilege. I'm ready to get into this discussion with you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, although over here in Norway where I live right now, it's like minus 20 Fahrenheit, and it's going to be this way for a couple of weeks. So, yeah, it's deep freeze, find things to do inside. That's where I am now.
It's I have my hoodie on. I live in Louisiana in the Bible Belt. I was raised Southern Pentecostal, fire and brimstone. But anyways, it's like 70 degrees outside, or 60, almost 70 degrees. It's crazy. But in my house, I have concrete floors. In my office, it's freezing. I don't know what it is about my office, but I like it. I'd rather be cold than hot. I cannot stand the Louisiana humidity and hot, but I
got some farmland up here. There's lots of spaces you can come in Norway and you won't have that problem.
well, we just added another addition to the family, so hey, I'm down for it, man. I've been wanting to live off the grid, I say live off the grid. I gotta have the internet because I love seeking. Like, I would say the internet is like the lost library of Alexandria. You know what I mean? It's a way of communication. It's a way to learn, but it is getting a lot more controlled as of late. But it's a lot different whenever the internet first came out. You agree? Compared to what it was then, you could still find material and information.
It's not the same thing.
You can still find information.
It's not the same thing at all. I did a video on this a while ago. I was way back. The more people are talking about it now, but when you Google search things, you'll say there's a billion search hits, but you'll only get like 300 of them, and very controlled choices. And the other stuff, I wasn't even sure necessarily if it still exists on the internet. I have to remember old sites that I used to know 20 years ago, and then I can go, they're still there, but if you don't remember it in your head, if you don't know the exact address anymore, you'll never be able to bump into it on any kind of search So it is very, it's now very, I don't, controlled isn't even the word. It's very directed.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone search because it's like nobody goes past about 2 pages of the internet anyway. Whatever somebody clicks in, if it's not on page 1 or 2, they kind of just stop anyway. So it's whatever comes up right at the beginning. That's like all the average person is ever going to look at for a subject. So it's very directed. The internet is now trying to get you to certain ideas. And if you want to get away from those ideas, from the standard ideas, your search words have to become so good now. You have to almost be an expert in search words if you want to find something what you're really looking for.
They don't have me
it's
figured
almost
out.
like it would almost need to be a course in university, how to search the internet.
You're right, and they don't have me figured out, Howard. Or I'm sure you, because if I go to Google, and that a shame, that is the place where most everything is. I don't just go to the
Yeah,
first few things that pop up. I'm going to like the 10th page. You know what I mean, or the 20th page. I'm searching. I'm searching. I'm searching. Like, yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Most people just whatever pops up right there, and most of that crap is sponsored anyway. It says sponsored and ads and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah,
It's all
yeah,
marketing and all that crap, all that digital BS, and some of that stuff we
yeah.
might get into. Some of the like the maybe AI, Npc's simulation. And first, I would like to. You've already talked about it, and some things we're going to talk about. I have questions and stuff, statements that you may not have talked about, and you just give me what your gut tells you. Um, but with your I forgot when it was, early 2000s, mid 2000s, whenever you were going through, I don't even know how to say it, your suicide phase, whatever.
My
Um,
my depression phase, or
Depression, or
my work, or my work on myself phase, because there's two different
well,
pieces there.
your depression phase. I'm sorry.
Oh
Because
yeah, the
we
depression phase. Okay, yeah,
because
yeah.
we've all that when I heard that, that was very powerful. I think I heard it off the higher side, and that was very powerful. And I don't want to get on too much about it, but to me, before you give the, I guess, the clip notes or whatever, however long you want to talk about it, to me, whenever you go through that phase, that depression or the suicidal thoughts, we've all had. I don't care who you are, you if you're human, if you're not an NPC, you've had thoughts throughout your life. And when you go through these this downward path in your life with depression and these psychic vampires that attack you, one thing I've noticed, and I think it happens with you, you lose all ego, you lose all pride, you lose everything. Like there's no control like over your life in a way. So in a way, if you can overcome that depression, you'll rise above further than what you expected whenever you get out of it, because like you lose everything. You know what I mean? It's like you're almost on the verge of suicide, or not saying that you would do it, but the thoughts are there. You lose all pride, ego, um, everything that's in this physical world, everything. Like you don't care about it. So you're almost like a clean slate. Does that make sense? How
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. What he's talking about in my personal case, this happened in about 1996 to 97, so almost 20 over 25 years ago now. And it had come from a long series of various traumas that had happened in my life that kind of just compounded one on top of the other. And these traumas just sort of pulled away, it just pulled life away from me. A combination of I had no more interact I couldn't interact with life anymore. It just pulled the rug out from under me. Combination of I had a father who had stolen a lot of money from me when I was in university, and so made a giant mess of my whole university life. And then as soon as that was ending, I had an ex-girlfriend who was murdered. And so these events of sort of ways that you see the world were stopped. The way that you're supposed to view reality, I saw no longer worked. That just doesn't fit. But nothing came to replace it. So when nothing comes to replace it, you just drift. The problem for me was not only was I in the drift phase, I found that I was getting meaner and more manipulative. And one day I realized that life was screwing me over. So I was getting into this point where I'm going to try to screw life over first. That was kind of the way I was getting. And once I realized that, that's kind of when the depression hit, because it was this, why did I get like this? So it was the first part of introspection of, yeah, I may be having a bad time here, but I don't need to compound it by how I'm living. So when I was moving into the depression, it's a really interesting phase, because the depression can be two things. Depression can come from you don't have what you want. That's one kind of depression. You don't have there's things that you want and you don't have it. So that's a depression of lacking something, and that doesn't necessarily lead to a lot of transformation. If the depression comes from the side of something tells you it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter, that there's a meaninglessness to life. If it comes from that side of it, the problem, or not the problem, the power in that depression is when someone's in that state of depression, a part of us knows that's true. We don't know why it's true, but there's something in it that's true. And say, what you got to get out of bed and do something. No, I really don't. And there's a part of you that's true. And the challenge comes though is if you just stay in that place, if you just stay there, you don't get to use that power to finding out, well, what does that mean? What does it actually mean? So in that state, if someone happens to be listening and you're in that state now, don't be scared of it. It's not fun. I can guarantee you. Been right there. It's
Yeah.
not fun. I was at the point where he was saying, like, I actually wanted to commit suicide. I just couldn't figure out a good way to do it. So it's not a fun place to be, but it's also there's a power in there because you might say if the switch gets flicked back on again, if something can reveal to you a total new direction to take in that moment, it's like the depression turns into a powerful energy. For me, it was a video on Egyptian pyramid building, and when that came on in the midst of this, I knew instantly I'm supposed to spend time studying the ancient wisdom of Egypt, and it was instant, it was clear. That's what I'm supposed to do. There was no questioning it, and I went from no energy, like hard to get out of bed for days, and all of a sudden I could just go to the library and read 10 books a day. The energy level just changes, and you have to when you're in that part of the depression. I think there's no one there to tell you it's okay. It's not fun, but it's okay. You just have to be patient. And if you're patient and aware, that's the other thing. You kind of can't just sit and do nothing either. You've kind of got to be a little bit active in it somehow, kind of
Mhm.
like I'm looking for the door. I'm looking for where there's you're not going to get this thrown at you without a door. And you're waiting, but when you do see the door, whatever that is, then it's time to okay, this is over now. It's time to move. It's time to act, and it's time to learn from where you've been. Did you recognize that from yourself?
Oh yeah, exactly. And with me, I've had several bouts, I guess, with depression. It could be a stupid freaking girlfriend or whatever, like an old relationship. And another another one, probably maybe 5, 6 years ago. Man, I was doing these interviews and stuff, and I was getting too deep in some stuff, like sex trafficking and stuff like that. And and my Facebook page manager, Peter, he says, "Man, you you just ghosted. You went stealth mode." I went. I guess I needed a break.
Exactly.
One thing with covering alternative topics, I cover everything. What we'll be talking about, the nature of reality, conspiracies, the paranormal, ancient mysteries, the occult. And one thing you have to discipline yourself, and you have to, like you said, stay active. And I look at that as finding another source of like where you can calm your mind down. You can we all need to escape. We all have our form of escapism, and mine is I like to go to the park. I like to walk. I like to be with nature, and that's my form, and family, of course. But everybody needs to find their own form of escapism. I don't care if you like playing video games. If you're researching these topics, you're listening to people that I have on this show, like Howard and Mickoski, or anybody else, and you're into these topics. You need to have your own form of escapism. It's okay to do what the average NPC would do, play video games or whatever it is, as long as you're aware of the nature of our reality and the BS, this bullshit reality that we live in, and you're aware of all these things that's going on behind the scenes. It's okay to have your form of escapism. Well, what do you think about that? what is your form of escapism, Howard?
Wow, my escapism.
Yeah.
Um, I'd like to watch college football on Saturdays.
Yes, me too.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's a nice
Yeah.
day break to kind of just zone out. Um, yeah, little things. It's just to get outside. During the summer, it's great because when I've got the garden going, then once you kind of have to take breaks because there's work to be done on the crops. So it forces you to get out. It forces you to get your hands in the ground.
Gardening too.
The
Yes.
best thing for me though is a little bit similar to you. I like to be in nature, but I'm not a big walker. I like to go places that's very quiet and still and just be there in
Hmm.
stillness.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite things to do. But this is very important because especially as you start researching anything away from the normal, and particularly if you start researching into the nature of reality, which is what we're going to talk about. That's what my
Hmm.
books are about. That's what I deal
Yep.
with. Where are we and what the hell is this place really? It's not fun stuff. It's quite dark potentially.
Hmm.
It's quite challenging to be and I see a lot of people, if you just go too hard into it too fast, too long, you burn out. You literally,
Yeah.
yeah, you literally just, you'll turn yourself wild. And you need to take, like you say, you need to have breaks, like literally scheduled, and not just in the day. You need to make sure you've got periods of time. I had one where I was from about 2000 to 2004. So those 4 years is when I was working with the Korean monk and I was working with several native Indian medicine men. And the main area of study was proving if reality was solid. So I was spending 4 years doing intense exercises on myself and my mind and reality to test it. And at certain points of that near the end, it was breaking down so badly that I was having trouble dealing with what I was coming across. And just so everyone knows, I would never use drugs in this kind of work because there's a dangerous pathway as soon as you start going down there. Yeah, it can open a door, but it demands something from you for opening the door. And I don't think what they demand is anything worth what they give, given that you can do all that yourself. You have all the power to go into the same places yourself and then leave when you want. So everything was done through exercises and through work. And at one point, I was literally, um, it was like the same car would drive by me 10 times in the span of like 2 minutes. And like little things it was just my reality was breaking down so much. And so I phoned to where my Zen teacher was, to where Mr. Park was, and told him what had happened. And he had responded. He didn't speak English, but responded to somebody who could translate for him. And he said, he thinks you're going crazy, but he thinks it's quite funny. He said you should just take a couple of days and go play golf and just kind of forget about all this work for a while and just be out all day in golf and then get back to us. And I thought first thing was, okay, he thinks I'm going crazy, but he thinks it's funny. So obviously it's not dangerous, but something's going on that's not. So he said, just go golf. So that's what I did. I golfed for like 2 days straight. When it was done, I was totally grounded again. I was like, oh yeah, everything's fine. I'm still dealing with reality. I'm still asking my questions, but I didn't feel myself spinning. And that's a really good reminder that we need to not just take parts of the day, it's to actually take pieces of a week if needed to literally have, we're turning off all of our, we're turning off our computers, we're putting our books away. We're just going to do something else completely so that we're back dealing with the natural world for what it is, and then you can go back. So yeah, you need to take those spaces for yourself, or the egoic mind will just get too threatened. And when the egoic mind gets too threatened too early, it's not fun.
Exactly. So I guess let's go ahead and jump into it. And I'm glad that you went ahead, or we went ahead and discussed some possible some pros, some put some light on this situation on this, because instead a lot of people like to wait towards the end to kind of give things, examples of what to do, and also with your experience with your depression and stuff like that. One thing, and I commend you for speaking out about that, because everybody has, I would say, majority of people, even researchers, have experienced things like that. But a lot of people, you are one of the few that actually have talked about your personal experiences like that. So I commend you
Mhm.
for that. And that
Thanks.
I really appreciate you. That just makes me respect you a hell of a lot more than I already respected you. You know what I mean? So what happened in your life? Like I said, we're going to jump into it. What happened into your life where
Sure.
you just woke up and this reality isn't quite what it seems to be? It possibly could be a simulation, maybe not quite like a video game, but something along those lines. Was it like deja vu experiences? Was it just seeing 1122 like I do a lot, 322? What was that first glitch in your biological makeup mainframe that just like, man, something's
Okay.
off here,
If
you
we
know?
go back, because really the work, what do we call work in this field, like didn't start until like, yeah, 19, then by the way, that's the wood stove opening. Anybody's hearing what that noise is. My wife is making sure to say it's nice and toasty in here. Um, I didn't really start working hard on these subjects and didn't really think about them overly in detail until 1998, but I had these weird events in the past. So I guess for me, it would have been um, some out of body experiences that I had when I was still a teenager. That would have been the first ones of them. Ones where I was walking into a room and then realized I was asleep on the couch and kind of like, I'm here, but I'm there on the couch. What the hell's going on? And you kind of put that out of your mind, but not totally. There's something when if you've had that experience and you've just thought about it at all, it stays with you. So I've got a few of those out of body kind of experiences. But beyond that, I was never questioning reality per se until probably after Joan died. After Joan was murdered, that's kind of pushed me in a different direction. I was a hockey player. I liked to go out. Then I became a stand-up comedian. You know, okay, I was living a different life, but it was still within the bounds of normal, and I didn't think too much about it. But after her death, and I began began that spiral. I was questioning a lot of why do we live the way we live, but I wasn't questioning if it's a simulation or if it's real yet. But once I started digging into ancient Egypt and started recognizing that, because it took me into fields of alchemy and hermeticism and shamanism and yeah, Zen and Taoism and Gnostic Christianity. It didn't matter. It was whatever I thought was going to help me understand the ancient world. That's where I went and studied, and it was an obsessive 8 or 9 years of my work of my life. And like I say, it I guess my first big point would have been when I fully what because I you know you're reading all this stuff. Oh, the world's a dream, or the world's and we don't know really what that means. It's words on a page. You can kind of get an idea. But for me, the first day I'll tell you I can remember the two events that changed that I thought how I thought about reality. One, we can talk about these however you want, but one was a death experience that I had in 1999 where I saw myself die in a parallel reality. And so realized there's more than one of me and there's more than one of this reality. That was a pretty changing event. The other is when I was doing these exercises to test reality. And it was one where there was a guy walking with a girl ahead of me, maybe like if I do this, maybe about 20 yards ahead of me. So you still have them in view, but they're a bit ahead of you. And it was a particular way of walking where the world would kind of begin to drift a little, but all of a sudden the guy disappeared. Not the girl, just the guy. The guy would just vanish, and I could perfect. And the thing was I knew he vanished because there was a sign behind him, and I couldn't read the sign that he was walking towards. And all of a sudden he vanished and I could read the sign perfectly. And then the guy came back and they walked off and I got close enough to recheck the sign to make sure, yeah, that's exactly what I just read. So the guy actually, I couldn't have seen that sign as long as the guy was physically there. And that's when I started to realize this isn't solid. This is totally transparent. This is a totally non-physical reality. And it was at that point that I doubled my search much deeper into trying to figure out what these ancients knew about it. Of course, at that time, I was still trying to control the world a little bit. I was still in that how do I manifest what I want? How do I make the world do what I want? How can I control it? How can I fix it? I'm seeing, of course, reality is a really sick place. How do I make it better? So it took a while of playing those games until I realized that that's a waste of time too. There's a totally different way to deal with an unreal reality, and in fact a dark reality with our energy. And but I tried to fix it for a long time, and guess what? Never got fixed.
And it kind of reminds me, you talking about this guy that kind of disappears. And I cover all type of alternative topics. Like I said, ancient mysteries, the occult, the paranormal,
Mm,
or nature of
mm.
reality. Kind of reminded me of the Men in Black, and also the movie, in a way, the Adjustment Bureau. Have you seen that movie, the Adjustment Bureau?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Man, wow! It's almost like people can just come in and out of this reality or this dimension or whatever it is, But
yeah.
one thing that kind of woke me up, like, man, something's going on with this, with our nature reality and our existence, was probably '08, maybe '07, '08. Me and my girlfriend then, uh, we 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 didn't live together or nothing like that. She was still living with her parents. And '06 or '07, I think I might have still been living with my parents, and I was going to college for a little bit. But she had a dream. I had a dream. Well, anyways, she told me her dream that she was in a desert. I'm paraphrasing, so I've told the story. Maybe I've had a few things mixed up because it's been a while. But she was in the desert. She was being chased by somebody, and somebody that she believed was trying to kill her. So she went in this house, she hid and everything. But during this dream, she had somebody with her, but she couldn't tell who it was. So, and then that person that was chasing them, her and this other person that she couldn't tell who it was, went to inside the house, and then she and this other person went outside and hid them underneath the truck, and they just waited right there, up underneath this truck, until this figure, this person that was trying to kill her, and this person that she didn't know, in the dream she knew it was somebody, she didn't know who it was. That's that's just a synopsis of the story. So it shocked me. I kind of started shaking when she told me that, uh Howard, because I was like, no freaking way. She's like, what? I said, I had the same exact dream. Same exact dream. I shit you not. But I was in the desert. I was running, I was being chased by somebody's trying to kill me.
Mhm.
And I had somebody with me. Uh but I couldn't tell who it was. I couldn't tell who it was.
Mm,
So I went inside the house. And then that person that was trying to kill me and that person that was with me,
mm.
we went outside, got underneath the truck. We had the same dream with different perspectives. And man, it kind of gives me chills, like right now, even thinking about it. And what is that? Well, like, what is that a glitch in the matrix? Like, what is that? You know?
No, it's an event called dreaming together. I mean, when we dream alone, we are dreaming, we're moving into various parallel realities, or we're moving into the astral realm, or moving into places where we're non-physical, where just our consciousness and awareness is totally creating the environment. Now you can learn how to do that with people, like with somebody that you're close to in some way. Like you can't just, it's very hard to just dream together with like somebody you meet off the street and decide, hey, let's dream together tonight. Probably not going to happen. You need to have some sort of connection with that person, but you can learn how to be in the same location together. Now, in your case, it happened and it was a terrifying experience.
Yeah.
But you could have learned, if you obviously then you had this connection to do it, you could have learned how to be in a place, how to set up where you're going to be, you might say, so that say you're researching a subject, well, you can both go in the place of that subject together. And what's amazing is then you get two different perspectives of information then coming back. You're both in the same place. You'll have very similar experiences, but not the same. But then you'll come back with one piece of information, and the other person will come back with another piece of information, and you're sort of doubling what you've done on your own. So you can actually use this for some really powerful stuff. So that's what it is. It's a connecting of, however you want to call it, a connecting of soul parts or whatever you want to say. And we're just you're moving into the same place. I'm sorry that yours had to be so difficult and terrifying on day one. They don't have to be. You can do that with in a way that brings you information. Yeah. But as soon as you go into those realms, you have to be ready for what you're dealing with, because it's not all fun and games when you go into these places, and you have to be aware of what you're doing.
Many people, Howard, they have their own theories of what simulation is, and we'll get into the NPCs and the reincarnation soul trap and all that here in just a minute also. But many people will have their own theories and speculation of what a simulation is and how we might be living in a type of matrix like artificial construct. With your research, what have you come across to explain the simulation, if it is a simulation that we live in?
Yeah, the first challenge, of course, is to now we're digging into the topics in my new book, which is Exit the Cave. And the first topic is, first I have to say, of course, I don't know for sure what's going to happen after we die. I want to make sure everybody knows that. I don't know for sure how this realm was created or why. I just have my 25 years of experience and research that's put together now what I feel is a pretty good starting point as the thesis, which is not shared too often in many places. And I share it to get people to think, to get people to ask some questions about what they've always believed. And for me, the starting point is we have been given a belief structure of this reality since we were very young children, and we've never questioned it. That belief structure is this, whatever you want to call it, realm was created by a loving God who cares about us, who built this reality so that we can live and grow and learn and perfect ourselves and have some difficult experiences, but things we're going to learn along the way, and so that we can become absolutely perfect and join this creator again. That's what we've been told. And everything then we base our whole existence on, that's the foundation. Now, there are a couple of cultures and civilizations in the past, particularly ones that the Church of Rome decided they wanted to exterminate, those being the Gnostics 2,000 years ago, the Cathars in France, and several others who had a very different story of creation. They claim that there is a complete absolute. They don't use the word God. They don't use any word for it, because they say as soon as you put a word to it, you've already destroyed it. It's a totality, right? From that totality, though, things manifested out of, one of which was, will just for simplification, an error. And this one error decided that it wanted to create on its own. And what it created, known as this thing known as a demiurge to Gnostics, or Rex Mundi to Cathars, tried to create a world for itself, but couldn't. It was a lifeless creation, which sounds very computer world. It's a lifeless AI creation, which needed outside help in order to make it grow. The problem is this creation, and under those stories, is built by an evil demiurge, and it's built for one purpose only: to keep providing the power for the system to keep working. That's it. That's the only reason that physical matter exists, is for this evil, sick demiurge to keep his realm running. Now, if that's true, that changes everything we've ever thought about of this world. And it, of course, explains a lot of things. The challenge that we deal with is we are not, while we're physically in this realm, the true part of us is not from this realm. The demiurge pulled divine sparks from outside of this simulated creation and brought them in here. So we are actually powerful sparks of the totality, powerful sparks of the absolute. But we have been tricked and deceived into being here, and the whole existence is just here to keep us tricked in it, focused on it, be mined for our energy. Like I say, I mean, it makes sense. If you've got a think of how big, if we're taking this as a computer, I'm not saying it is a computer, but if that's the metaphor
That's
we're
the
going to
only
use.
reference we have. Yes.
Yeah, and it's a good one based on how many options we've got to from when it was a dream 2000 years ago. It's a computer simulation. Okay, if you think we're not talking about the material world, we're talking about the material world, the etheric realm, the astral realm, the angel realm, the super duper realm, and maybe millions of other similar parallel realities. The computing power you would need to run that is staggering. It would make sense if you could generate the power from the things inside the simulation itself. If the computer game characters could generate the power for the computer game to keep running, that would be brilliance. And it's sick, but that's what we're under. I think that we've been told we're farm animals. We're like equivalent to farm animals. We're here being farmed for energy, but I think it's even more simplistic that we're being used as the power source to keep the thing running. Because if the power ever goes off, just like any computer simulation, it ends. And for the demiurge, if it ends, the demiurge ends. The demiurge and what they're called archons, who are the what you might call alien helpers who work with the demiurge,
John
they
Lem
need this to
Lash
keep
talks
running.
about that too. Not in
Yeah,
his image.
yeah,
Yes.
right. They need to keep this running. So that to me now makes absolute complete sense and starts to explain all of the massive holes we've had for thousands of years as to why we believe the world is one way, but the experience of it is completely different. Why this is pretty much a realm of suffering and not a realm of anything positive and helpful. Because if this was truly done by a loving creator, there wouldn't be anything like this at all. There's no way this would be anything like this. This is suffering to the degree of right up here. And that tells you then maybe the problem is actually with what we've been told to believe from day one. And if we start, I'm not saying what to believe, I'm just saying maybe we should question this. Because if we start questioning it and start finding something that's more true, then we might be able to know what our response to reality should be, what our response to our life should be. Um, and in my case, to say, well, I'm going to go home then. I've been at this party long enough. It's not fun anymore. I'm going home. And that's the that's kind of become the focus of the work, which is exit the cave. We can study the cave forever. You can study the matrix for 1,000 years, and it's just going to be a whole lot of extra information. Not too many people are actually studying how do you leave.
Exactly. Exactly. And we may touch on some of that here in just a little bit, but and it just like we're saying, the computer, the Sims world, the this game that we live in, that those are just references. And also science. You got to believe in the science, but they have been talking about that everything is ones and zeros, right? Everything is digital, even to the very make of our existence.
Yeah.
And
It's all yin and yang. Yeah, it's all just zeros and ones. It's all just the interplay of this. And you mentioned the Adjustment Bureau. So there's
oh
there that
man,
all of these things. It
just
doesn't
so
matter now what movie we start moving into Adjustment Bureau, Dark City, The Matrix, Truman Show.
Dark
So
City. Oh my
Adjustment Bureau.
gosh. Oh
Yeah.
my
So
gosh.
so the Adjustment Bureau is really a story about life scripts. And this is a really sneaky thing that we don't realize. We think we've got free will. We're told, oh yes, you have free will. You're making all of your choices. But Adjustment Bureau is showing very clearly there's scripts. And there are these beings that are making sure we run certain scripts. And the sneaky part of Adjustment Bureau, and we don't have to go into the totality of this movie,
Yeah,
but is that at the end of the movie, people think, and it was not Leo DiCaprio, it
Matt
was
Damon. Matt Damon.
yeah, Matt Damon. They think, oh, he won because he managed to get his life script changed. So now he could have the life script of living with the girl, Emily Blunt, and now they live happily ever after. And this is wonderful. But we were revealed that before that, oh, this used to be your life script, but the chairman had changed it to a different something else. And said, but oh, the chairman changed it for you. It's okay. He's still in a life script. Okay, it's a life script he might like more than other, but it's not truly one that was freely chosen. because we don't know exactly what's happened in the pre-birth realm of what sort of bizarre contracts and agreements we've made before we come in here. They might have tricked us into, here's 10 life scripts. Agree to one of them. Yeah, okay, I'll take this one then. Yeah, fine, okay. But we should have billions of life scripts to choose from, not just a few. And that's what I think the Adjustment Bureau is sneakily telling us. We think we're getting off into making our own choice of living our life and not even realizing it's just another life script that's been set out for us, and you're not really living free. And to me,
It,
that's something like the Carlos Castaneda books. That's what it's really about. He calls it finding the totality of the self, which would be breaking everything, getting to the point where you've broken every single piece of control mechanism, every single piece of deception mechanism that's been on us since even before we were born, and actually finally have it all gone. And for the first time in our existence, take a step exactly the way we want to take it. It's an amazing thought to finally get to that point where we actually know what freedom really is.
and I really didn't want to talk about the Adjustment Bureau this much, but man, if people that have not seen it, if you watch this movie and you're awake and aware to this bullshit reality we live in, you will see the similarities to
Mm-hmm.
to everything. And it makes me wonder, do we actually have any free will? Do are everything, all this craziness that happens on the world stage and politics and everything, the selected, not elected, the selected leaders, is it all just a computer program by the architect in the Matrix? Like, is it?
Yeah.
And these people within the Adjustment Bureau, these people that come in and they manipulate everything and steer Matt Damon away from Emily Blunt
Yeah.
within this movie, because they have, I look at it like a program that a directive that he has to fulfill, which is, I believe, to become a senator or a president, wasn't it? I think president,
President, I
I
think,
believe.
yeah, that was supposed to be, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but what if his true self, his true nature, his existence, his true identity that's not what he wanted. That's not what his soul really sought after. So those people that was manipulating everything to try to steer him to the presidency, I look at that like, man, how come me and you can't just become president? Because we don't have these, whatever these players are, that the Adjustment Bureau people, we don't have them pushing us towards, I guess long story short, I'm looking at it like, what if something like that really is going on? And those people that were manipulating Matt Damon, they are part of the program within the simulation. And that's the reason why it seems like we don't have free will, because and maybe we go through the depression because we're always fighting back. We're always fighting against what the program already has. And everything seems like it just keeps going to hell in a handbasket. Nothing's getting better because we're fighting against the program. But I think the only way we can break through the program and change the program is if there's a collective conscious evolution or revolution and awakening on a massive global scale. Maybe that's when things can change. I'm not sure, but you see what I'm saying? There's so many directions that we could go with that.
Yeah, there's a lot. I wrote down about 6 different things, so I'll
Go
try to
ahead.
get
The
to
floor is
all the
yours,
things you brought
man.
up.
The floor is yours.
No,
And
I mean,
go ahead.
this is what makes good conversations, right?
Yeah.
When somebody is sharing personal feelings and ideas, because that's when the information starts to rise, right?
Yeah.
So this is really good. So first one we came up with is, do we really truly have free will? And as soon as somebody says, everybody has an event, at least one event in their life when they say it was destined to happen. It doesn't matter whether had to meet this person or I had this car accident, or it was destined to happen. Well, as soon as you say something is destined to happen, that's not free will. Just that and alone indicates something is is actually programmed into the reality that we're living, right? So right away it means, okay, then we don't have obviously we don't have total free will then. Otherwise, we should be able to choose everything totally. So
Hmm.
then the question is, how much do we really have? You know, do we have free will for the bigger choices, or do we just get free will for like the next sip I'm going to take? It's going to be tea or water. Which is it going to be? Maybe that's the amount of free will I've really got. That for a while, our free will is so small, we don't even notice it. We're on these life scripts. Now, that doesn't mean I think we can create more and more and more of it. The question becomes, we don't really know how much we actually have. And I didn't even realize until recently how many times I've been manipulated in my life, how many times I thought I was making a decision totally on my own, whether it's which direction to go, whether I should do this, whether I should say yes to this, even like, should I go to this party or not? And I've looked back in time after years of my life recapitulations to realize there are these energetic beings that have been playing and screwing with me and manipulating me to do certain things along the way. And most of the things that I was manipulated to do were not really helpful to me. In fact, the book I'm writing now, which is Exit the Cave, was kind of in the beginning process back in 2004. It was beginning to be written then. I then had my death experience in 2005, and I went on a completely different route of research and study and wrote a completely different book. And I realized I was manipulated away. I could have wrote the book I wrote now 15 years ago and have maybe really had more time to dig into what I think is a critical topic, but I went into the more where you're supposed to go spiritually, which is awareness and oneness and the unity of the world and just the work of self-knowing, which is all valuable, but it's just a piece of a much bigger puzzle. And I left the rest of the puzzle aside to go into the more safe area. And I realized I was manipulated to do that. Actually, I was manipulated to go away from a dangerous place. And it wasn't until the combination of me writing the book, exposing the expositions on all the lies of history and the world fairs,
Yeah.
and then all of this stupid insanity we've had over the last 2 years, and just saying, okay, you know what? There's no time left for games. Game time is over. And if I'm going to have something to say now, I better have I better have something very real and very honest to say, because we don't have time. And it was the combination of these things that pushed me back to where I was 15 years ago. So we were already dealing with, we don't really know how much free will we've got. We're being manipulated. And we're like, so right away we've got, oh boy, we're into that problem. Then we've got the third issue we're dealing with from this is reality, the way this reality is structured and set up. So once you begin to see it as some sort of artificial reality, some sort of simulation, again, is just a word, but however you want to start looking at reality as not being the way we thought it is, again, we go back to the original program belief, which you were mentioning. How can we figure out how to fix it? How can we change it? How can we make it better? But can a video game character change their game? Can a video game character change the video game? And this game might be set up for one thing only: make everything in it suffer so we can steal energy from them. And that's it. And maybe that's what the thing is set up for. Now we can seemingly, because we have a ton of power, more power than humans have wanted to believe, and we can make changes in our reality. We can make changes in our personal world, in our small circle of community. We can definitely make that. But as soon as we try to fix the game, fix the program, it's almost like that's another wasted energy drain. If we start learning how to use our energy to transform what we have the ability to transform, and not try to fix something that doesn't need to be fixed. I've always said this a lot of times. Yeah, the world's insane, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's insane, but it's been set up to be insane. And once we recognize that the original setup of this world was set up by an insane creator,